45 years ago, Widmer Brothers Brewing introduced the world to Widmer Hefeweizen. The naturally cloudy brew starts with the highest quality wheat. Its bold, clean flavor, pronounced citrus, and floral aromas are what define American-style Hefeweizen. So pour yourself a cool, cloudy glass and enjoy the original Widmer Brothers Hefe, the beer that started it all.
Hi, this is Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam. Youth Homes is a great local organization that's been helping local kids and families for more than 45 years. Now the Youth Homes need your help. There are thousands of children in Montana who are in immediate need of a safe and loving foster home, and there are not nearly enough homes available for these kids. The Youth Homes Dan Fox Family Care Program provides training and support for anyone interested in foster care and adoption. Please consider what you can do to help Montana's kids. Visit danfoxfamilies.org.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tootell and Coulter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. The Warriors take game 2. Is the preseason necessary? And more coaching shakeups in the Big Sky Conference with men's basketball. It is Tootell and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio and across the state on SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Great to be with you. We are also around the world on YouTube television. That's right. Get on the YouTube, subscribe to the channel, check it out. You can watch us wherever you are on YouTube. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web. What are you grinning about? Because I've already messed up the word of my hometown.
No, because I'm just laughing because, like, the YouTube stream's like 10-second delay.
Yeah.
So then you can, like, I clicked on it, so we'd have another extra subscriber. And I just saw myself dancing 10 seconds after I was dancing.
You're good. You're a great dancer. You're a good chair dancer.
It's a horrifying experience having to watch yourself in any capacity.
I love it.
I know, because you're unabashedly confident.
Myself, the better. Hey,
the more the people that can see of you, the better too.
Yeah, right. All of these things. 1029ESPN.com. That's our website. There, you can go listen live, no matter where you are, via the stream. The stream is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can get the voices without the pictures, and as Coulter would say, that's the better way to go. You can do that thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank. Your opportunity, if you want to call, well, by all means do so. 329-1899, 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Raggage Brothers RV phone line. Big game last night. Obviously, we will get into that. We're going to get into a little bit of NFL stuff as Roger Goodell making some interesting comments at the Jim Kelly Charity Golf Tournament in Buffalo. So we'll touch on that. Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final is tonight. Got to get into that. The Blues getting blown out in their own barn on Saturday. So fourth and critical game for St. Louis once again. They're up against it, so we'll get that. And then a bunch of news in the next hour from around the Big Sky Conference. Maybe most noteworthy, Jack Murphy, no longer the head coach of the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks. He gets on the staff with Sean Miller at Arizona, an associate head coach, and has history there as well. So we will discuss that a little bit too. And various other things around the softball player of the year, 6 and 8 man all-star games, so a bunch of stuff to get to. So there you go. There is the show outlook. Coulter, last night, game 2 of the NBA Finals. And the Warriors did what the Warriors couldn't do in game 1, but what they seem to do pretty regularly, and that was come out of the half and blitz the team that they have in front of them, in this case the Toronto Raptors. A 13-point run to start the third quarter. In total, a 19-1 run dating back to the end of the second quarter, then through that third quarter. And a stretch of 6 to 8 minutes that just completely altered this game. The Warriors were down about the same amount that they were down in game one through most of the first half, and then closed the gap to, I think, 3 points, maybe 5 at the end of the half. Closed it down from what had been a double-digit lead for Toronto, and then all of a sudden just went ballistic. Actually, here's the thing. You know what's amazing about this? There's different types of runs. Usually the runs that the Golden State Warriors go on are these just unbelievable three-point barrages where they hit 3 threes, a regular field goal, and go to the line a couple times, and all of a sudden they've picked up 14, 15 points in the matter of 90 seconds or 2 minutes of gameplay. That was not the case here. I went back and looked at this in the play-by-play sections. They scored the first 13 points of the third quarter. It took them nearly the first half of the third quarter to do it. It was almost 6 minutes of game time. 5 minutes and 40 seconds of game time. That's a 26-minute, maybe if you add in the extra couple seconds, a 28-minute quarter. You know what that is? Very average. If you're Toronto and you're holding Golden State to 26 or 28 points in a quarter, you're okay with that. They didn't get blitzkrieged by Golden State. They couldn't score a bucket, Coulter. The issue was not the 13 points that Golden State scored. The issue was the goose egg over the first half of the third quarter that Toronto put on the board offensively. And Kawhi Leonard had 34 points last night. He went 16 of 16 from the line, which is obviously outstanding, and it doesn't matter where the points come from, and it's hard to criticize a guy who scores 34 points, but he was nowhere to be found. He wasn't even attempting shots at that time. And I sit here and I go, if you're Kawhi Leonard and you are obviously the hands-down best player on your team, the best offensive player on your team to boot, and you just no-show, I mean, you get Pascal Siakam, who dominates game one, and now he didn't no-show in the game, again, 34 points, but at the time when his team needed him the most to be there, he was not there, and he doesn't look the way he looked in the Eastern Conference Finals to me in the first 2 games of this thing. And I thought a lot of those points, okay, coming from the line, that's fine. But in terms of the clutch, critical times where he was the one carrying the team in the Eastern Conference Finals, I did not see that in either of the first 2 games, and I would be concerned if I was Toronto about that development. Nonetheless, you got to score a bucket. Somebody has to make a shot to not allow a 19-1 swing, and there was just nobody for the Toronto Raptors that could do it. We will get into the Warriors side of this thing here, but go ahead, give me your first thoughts here on game 2.
Well, I saw not necessarily a Raptors team that was struggling offensively as much as a Raptors team that started to panic offensively. The Raptors controlled this series for the first 6 quarters unwaveringly, and the only thing we've seen from the Warriors, the only certainty we've seen from the Warriors is that it's impossible to control a game against them for the full 4 quarters. And the fact that the Raptors did it for a game and a half, truly impressive in not only the intricacy of the scheme that they were running, but also just the steadfast and unwavering effort to do it. But as soon as the floodgates broke, the Warriors recaptured that magic. It was the longest run. It was the first 20-0. You said 19-1. It was actually 20-0 before Van Vliet hit that 3. Is the longest run of extended points in the history of the NBA Finals. And, of course, the Golden State Warriors did it. But I think that once you saw the Warriors get a couple buckets in a row and the momentum was starting to shift, because the Warriors did reassume the lead early, and then it became a kind of a slugfest. In the second half, that is. Right out the gates, I think 9. The Warriors were down 4. 5. The Warriors were down 5 at halftime, and they were up 4 during the first 4 minutes of the second quarter.
Okay.
That's when I saw the Raptors start to panic. The other thing is this was completely spurred on by the Raptors or the Warriors defense. And you were talking about Kawhi Leonard. It's not a coincidence Kawhi Leonard shot 16 free throws last night. If you watched what the Warriors were doing, what's Kawhi Leonard the best at? When he gets the ball on the wing, he just bulls his way into the lane. He's so strong.
Yep.
And when he gets the corner on you, he's going to get you until when you get back in front of him and he stops on a dime and he elevates above you. And he's the only guy in the league that's strong enough to do that. Yep. Well, the Warriors had, whenever he beat you off the dribble, the Warriors had another guy to impede that. So he was rushing his pull-ups, and oftentimes he was drawing fouls. But you just don't let him get going in that way, because even though he's shooting free throws, he's not getting in the flow of the offense. And so what I saw was, as soon as the Warriors assumed the lead, the Raptors started forcing shots, and that's how the momentum flipped on its head. And then as soon as they were able to build the lead that they were able to build, then they just were able to hold on.
Right. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, 8 of 20 from the field, 40%, so not great, and 2 of 9 from beyond the arc. And one of the areas in which Kawhi Leonard has become such an absolute weapon is because he's so great. He's a great shooter, and he's an excellent three-point shooter. 2 of 9, is just anybody can have a night like that, of course, but that's not going to get it done, especially in against the Warriors. Tootell, Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, 329-1899. If you want to get in, give us your thoughts on the game last night. You're certainly welcome too. Steph Curry was playing under the weather. I don't know exactly the ailment, but you could see he was laboring. In fact, he was even out for a portion of that, was it the first or second quarter there, where he had to go get some assistance or whatever. I thought he played a pretty marginal game, but a game that you might expect. It certainly wasn't the Michael Jordan sickness game or something like that, but he played a good game and hit some shots, especially after a very slow start. I think he was like 0 of 5 to start.
He's 0 of 6.
0 of 6, okay. But came on and got it done. Klay Thompson was absolutely outstanding throughout this game, and then goes down with an injury, and I still don't know where we're at with Klay Thompson physically speaking. That is obviously a monumental loss if he was to go down. The guy who stood out for me, though, hands down the most for this team yesterday was Boogie Cousins.
Yep.
Gets into the starting lineup, has 28 minutes of gameplay, and he affected this game in so many ways. I mean, 11 points, okay, not a big deal. He only took 8 shots, so that it's not like he had a bad night shooting or whatever. He just wasn't trying to do that game. But to have the 10 rebounds and the 6 assists, and I thought the flow of the offense with him on the floor was outstanding. I thought his defense was very, very important to try and neutralize Gasol a little bit. And I just thought he played it after playing in 8 minutes in game 1, and you could see that it was the first game back. This is my thought. Your first game back from a layoff isn't your first game back. Your first game back is your second game after you get into the flow. But even so, to go 28 minutes and to be as good as he was, I thought was outstanding. And I thought he was the MVP of this team, at least in this respect. He wasn't the best player for the Warriors by any stretch. But all the other Warriors players sort of did what you thought they would need to do. They kind of played an average game for them. Boogie Cousins was the guy who played a great game for him, especially considering the fact that he was out and lifted this team, especially with Steph sick and Klay Thompson leaving the game in the second half. So I thought it was outstanding by Boogie Cousins.
What's the only advantage that the Raptors truly have in this series?
Yeah,
size.
The middle. Yeah.
Size.
Yeah.
And that's negated when you throw 6'11", 300-pound DeMarcus Cousins out there.
Yes,
if he plays like he did last night, which was atypical DeMarcus Cousins. It was not ISO scoring, give me the ball on the block. It was work out of the high post, work within the scope of the offense. He passed the ball incredibly well.
Very well.
And I thought him on the glass, I thought he was the biggest difference maker. Because if it wasn't for him, I mean, the Raptors already dominated the glass in this game. And if it wasn't for Boogie Cousins, that could have been the X factor. It could have been the thing that put him over the top. I was watching the game with my uncle last night. He's from the Bay. And Boogie Cousins started and then hit the floor twice early. And my uncle hadn't even noticed. He's like, think they're going to play Boogie tonight? And I was like, oh, he started and he's already out. He's got pulled within 90 seconds. And you were wondering, oh, is he hurt again? What's going on? And then he finally got his way back in the mid-second quarter, and then he played basically the stretch run the whole rest of the game. Mm-hmm. And he was good, really good. If you are the Raptors.
Deep depression.
And you got Steph Curry misses his first 6 shots, yet still had 14 points at halftime.
Yeah.
Sick. The bench did nothing for the Warriors. The bench is always so good. The bench did nothing, basically. Yeah. Quinn Cook, the only real
Quinn Cook was
bench
nice
contributor. Klay Thompson goes out in the third quarter, and you're at home and you still lose. It's a deflating loss.
It's a deflating loss.
I said going into this game that as soon as the Warriors seize momentum in the scope of a single game or the series or both, which they might have done yesterday, they're not giving it back. And I think that the Raptors had the exact game plan, the exact formula, the exact control, everything that they needed the first 6 quarters of this game. And as soon as that pendulum swung, the Warriors showed why they're the dominant team of the modern era.
The one thing, if you're looking for a silver lining here for Toronto, is they were down, double digits, 9, 11 points, something like that, in the latter stages of this game. And they worked their way back into it at the end.
I mean, they're the only team that can really string together stops against this team.
Yes, I continue to be impressed with the Toronto Raptors defense.
I mean, there's no doubt they're tough.
Yep.
Kyle Lowry, much maligned. Kyle Lowry, very polarizing. Kyle Lowry is a very feast or famine player, but you cannot denounce Kyle Lowry for how tough he is. I think Travis DeCuire, actually, University of Montana head men's basketball coach, he tweeted last night. He said, millions of young basketball players around the country are watching Steph Curry in this game. Maybe they should be watching Kyle Lowry. I think the stat was that he drew his 16th charge of the playoffs alone.
Yeah.
And, Kyle Lowry he's a junkyard dog when it comes to defense. And I thought the Raptors did inch their way back into this thing, but I don't know, man. I think that the fact that the Warriors were able to take the Raptors' absolute best shot, they were able to navigate and eventually crack the code of a scheme that they had not seen before defensively, and a lineup play in that too. You can't denounce the level of talent that the Raptors have too. Like when they roll with that big lineup where it's Lowry, Danny Green, Kawhi, Pascal Siakam, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, those 6 guys rotating. That's a big, strong, veteran, athletic, long lineup, and they're executing Nick Nurse's stuff to perfection. But as soon as the Warriors, cracked it was like a landslide. And I just think that taking that momentum back to Oakland is going to be hard for Toronto to overcome.
Pascal Siakam, for as great, and he was great in Game 1, as he was not so much in Game 2, 5 of 18 from the field. That's for being 14 of 17. They absolutely keyed on him, and I give Golden State credit. And I mean, he's not going to go 14 of 17 again, but 5 of 18 is bad, and that's a lot of missed shots, which translates to a lot of empty possessions. And it's some nights you have it, some nights you don't. But that's the thing where a guy like Pascal Siakam, who's got this breakout player, tremendous talent, guy that I think everybody likes and is excited to see his career, but the consistency in times like this maybe not there as much. In any case,
well, and this is so commonplace in sports, right?
Yes.
You're a guy that's not necessarily towards the top of the scouting report. When you're playing an elite team like the Warriors, you go off, you exploit a matchup. Now you're on the top of the scouting report. They're not going to let you do it again. Yeah. I thought the adjustment by Steve Kerr, because the Raptors play a very atypical style. They actually do take a fair amount of threes despite not being a three-point oriented team.
Yeah.
But what other team in the league has multiple guys that try to catch the ball on the wing and then bully their way into the paint and then pull up 10 to 12-foot jump shots? There's only like 5 guys in the league that shoot that shot, period. And the Raptors have 2 of them.
Right.
And I thought it was a brilliant adjustment, though, not only in lineup. I mean, how many minutes did Andrew Bogut play last night? Like 2? And Kevon Looney played hardly at all as well. I mean, for Steve Kerr to have the confidence to instead go with DeMarcus Cousins, a key personnel shift, but also just when Kawhi got in the lane, if he got you on his hip, there was another guy waiting. Pascal Siakam abused Draymond Green in the first game because there was no help. So Pascal would just bump him, turn around hook shot.
Yeah.
Well, now this time guys are closing in on it, and then all of a sudden when you're kicking to role players, that makes the pressure on the shots, getting shot by Danny Green, getting shot by Kyle Lowry, getting shot by Fred VanVleet, the pressure is a lot higher in that situation. I thought it was a great coaching adjustment by Steve Kerr.
And again, I thought DeMarcus Cousins, 2 things, the things that don't show up in the stat line, but the size that they didn't have basically in Game 1, he only played 8 minutes. Talking about altering shots, changing what guys are having to do so huge. And I was so impressed with how well he moved. I mean, he's always been great feet, tremendous athleticism for his size and stuff. But coming off of that injury, a thigh, I mean, you go, my goodness, what's he going to look like? And you would have never known. You would have never known last night with DeMarcus Cousins.
The Steph Curry's press conference was so good in terms of looking into what makes the Warriors so great. I think that there's so many things that make the Warriors so great, but we talk and analyze and hear about all the on-the-court stuff all the time.
Yeah.
They have 4 of the 20 best players in the league. They got 3 guys that are Hall of Famers for sure, and maybe a 4th guy that is too. Super team, yada, yada, yada. How do you beat the Warriors with their chemistry and their talent and all that? The most underrated part about the Golden State Warriors is Steve Kerr. I really think that Steve Kerr might be one of, if honestly not the best coach in the history of the NBA. He's only been a head coach for 5 years, but I really think you can laugh all you want. By the end of this series, Steve Kerr's going to have 4 championships in his first 5 years. Yeah. Steve Kerr's going to have managed higher expectations than any team in the history of the league. Even Phil Jackson never had to manage 4 superstars like Steve Kerr does right now. I mean, Draymond Green is as volatile as Dennis Rodman. He might not be wearing a wedding dress and dyeing his hair pink, but he's a crazy person if you let him go off the rails. Steve Kerr has been, I mean, to have Draymond Green's role evolve into what it became the first 3 years with the Warriors, and then to have it be demeaned by the addition of Kevin Durant, and then to have Draymond Green ready to reassume his first-team All-NBA form the day Kevin Durant got hurt, that is outstanding coaching. And to have, each guy get hurt. Everybody's been banged up. Everybody's been out. And you just keep rolling. It's such good coaching, but it's like Steph said, the number one thing that makes their locker room so special is Steve Kerr not only tells but makes everybody in the locker room believe you will contribute to a championship. You will. I might sit you for 60 games in a row, but when it's your turn, be ready because I will have trust in you. You have to perform. And that's what we just saw with DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah. No one loves Steve Kerr more than me, both as a person and as a coach. I think he's awesome. The all-time list we're a little early on that.
I don't think so, man. Yeah. I think that when you talk about baseline talent, again, these guys are all products of their own success, and they're all products of each other. But you talk about the actual individual greatness of all of these guys, and it's lesser than the sum of their parts. There is not Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Magic Johnson playing on these teams. They all make each other into all-time great players, there's no doubt. But I just think that, like, Phil Jackson, the Zen master, he gets them all to get along, whatever. It's still Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, and Scottie Pippen. Those guys are individually more gifted than anybody on the Warriors. No question.
Yeah.
And, I mean, who else is in the running? Red Auerbach, Pat Riley. They have better talent. These guys are so talented because of what they've done now. But when Steve Kerr took that job, you had a fat, out-of-shape second-round draft pick of Draymond Green who no one wanted. You had a guy who weighed 140 pounds with the most bum ankles in the league who had to learn how to walk again so he didn't break his ankle. You got a dude who smokes too much weed who couldn't get a good scholarship because of the way he lives in his personal life in Klay Thompson. And now you are gunning for your 4th championship in 5 years. If you look at it retrospectively, it's hard to say that Steve Kerr is not among one of the great coaches in the history of the league already.
I find it hard to say. I would also disagree with your evaluation of the talent on this team relative to other teams. Now, is anybody on this team? Look, Kevin Durant is better than Scottie Pippen.
He is.
Okay, so we can start there. Nobody's better than Mike.
I'm just talking about the way that
Kobe.
I know, but they don't get Kevin Durant if Steve Kerr doesn't build the culture, the cohesiveness, and the machine that is the Warriors. The new articles
that may be, but you are talking about an NBA MVP in Steph Curry. You are talking about maybe the next best shooter in the history of the league with Klay Thompson.
Right, but those guys wouldn't have forged those reputations if it wasn't for the system and the program that Steve Kerr runs.
Which was begun by Mark Jackson.
No.
Yes.
These guys are running a completely different system. You got to read the new article in Sports Illustrated. It's all about the system that they've devised. What did you say 3 weeks ago that you hate about the NBA? High pick and roll. It's all about matchups. It's just boring. It's boring. Really watch what the Warriors do. They're the only team in the league that don't do that. They move without the ball. They don't set ball screens. They set off-ball screens. It's basketball at its purest form, and that's Steve Kerr.
My argument is not about the system being the same. It is not the same as it was before. What I am saying is that the system has maybe it's coalesced talent, maybe it's improved the talent, but the talent was already all-time level talent when Steve Kerr got there, and that is
you
not
only
to
think that because
them.
of what they've accomplished now.
No, false.
Shaquille O'Neal is the most dominant player in the history of the NBA. The day before he ever put on a Lakers uniform, Kobe Bryant was the greatest prodigy the NBA has ever seen. These guys had way more projected talent than what the Warriors have right now.
Having projected talent and having talent are two different things. And all I'm saying is that Mark Jackson, when he was a coach, said this is the best shooting backcourt in the history of the NBA. That was before Steve. And by the way, I love Steve Kerr, but I'm not going to go there with you on the all-time thing yet. However, he might be the best coach in the NBA right now. I mean,
there's no might about that.
It's a two-horse race. It's him and Pop. That's it. It's the list.
Interesting that Steve Kerr learned so much from Pop.
Interesting. Maybe not interesting. Maybe expected. But the point is that Kerr is great. Last thing I wanted to say, though, this does demonstrate this game 2, the absolute chasm, the abyss that exists between the Warriors and everybody else. No Kevin Durant, okay? Top 3 player in the NBA. Maybe the greatest just straight scorer in the history of the league. Any other team loses that guy, see ya. Sorry, it's over. Okay, well, now they're just back to the team that already won a championship without him anyways. Okay, fine. Now you got a guy sick. Now you got a guy injured and out. Boogie Cousins playing in his second game off a significant injury. And they go out there and in Toronto in, an unbelievable atmosphere against a very good team, a dogged team, a tough team, a veteran team, and they win. I mean, they are that good. And
where does that confidence come from and those adjustments come from?
You think that I'm not giving credit to Steve Kerr. I'm giving all kinds of credit to Steve Kerr, but it also comes from guys who are just better. Who, after Kawhi Leonard, okay, and I don't know where Kawhi Leonard falls on the list. I'm not going to sit here and rank him relatively. The next 4 and probably 5 and possibly 6 best players are on the Golden State Warriors. So you can talk to me about Steve Kerr all you want, and I love him, but it's not
and guys that are ready.
That's what matters.
Because we forgot to even mention the actual dagger of this whole situation. Like, that's where the Warriors are so special, regardless of who you're giving the most credit to for them being special. The Raptors have run this excellent defense this entire time to derail everything, derail Steph Curry's off-ball movement, and try to do all these different things. And what happens? Last night, the Raptors cut it to one possession. They trap Steph Curry. He gets rid of the ball, and then 2 defenders trail through the lane. They trail Steph Curry through the lane and relieve Andre Iguodala. And to your point, is Andre Iguodala the 3rd, 4th, or 5th best player on the Raptors? No, but he's making that shot 100 out of 100 times.
Agree. 329-1899 if you want to get in. We go to the phones. We welcome in Nick to the show. Nick, go ahead.
Hey, I'm calling in to argue with Coulter about
boy.
Steve
That's what
Kerr.
we want around here.
Okay, when Steve Kerr had to leave for his health problems or whatever he had there, didn't Luke Walton go like 32-1 with that same team?
He did.
What did he do when he lost all that talent?
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers won 40 games last year.
Right. I mean, so if Luke Walton were the head coach of the Warriors, would they be as good as they are now?
No. But the point
you don't
is,
think they'd be in the NBA Finals right now?
I do.
yes.
I do.
Okay. And they'd probably be 4 of the last 5 or 5 of the last 6, probably still, I think, right?
It's true. I mean, it's definitely the chicken before the egg. It's one of the great arguments in sports because, especially the NBA, because there really is no coach that's won multiple championships without having all-time great players. But also, how much did that coach help the all-time great players?
Totally. And
I mean, when Michael Jordan was playing for Doug Collins, he was trying to fight his teammates every single practice and couldn't get out of the East.
Yeah.
He needed to do some.
He was also 22 or 23 years old.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Nick, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. It's a good thought, and it's a valid point. Here, let me ask you this, Coulter: Would it be in an ironic way. Like, we talk about, Michael Jordan, it's not just 6, but it's 6-0 in finals, right? Winning all of them that you're in. And here's Steve Kerr, who's going to have been who's in 5 consecutive finals in his first 5 years, right? He didn't his
5 consecutive finals, 5 for 5.
But and he wasn't a coach before that, right?
Never been a head
they
coach.
went the first, but I mean, he wasn't a coach in Golden State. They went the first year that he was there, right?
Yes.
If he had been there 2 years earlier and they hadn't gone, would he somehow get more credit because he was the guy, quote unquote, developing? Where I think there's some people who look like, well, you jumped on the gravy train. Look at Luke Walton. He can sit at the end of the bench and do the thing. You know what I mean? Which, again, Luke Walton is taking over for what? Steve Kerr. I mean, the system is in place. And that team, isn't that the team that won
73 games, yep.
73? Okay.
Yep.
I mean, that was a very, very obviously unique system. And Steve Kerr gets a ton of credit even while he's out for what is going on during that stretch. But it's this thing where people are like, well, they're so good. Of course, they're already going to do what they're going to do. It doesn't really matter. Where if Steve Kerr had been here before, then all of a sudden he gets more credit for being the guy who started championing this thing and building it up, from the ground up rather than the guy who came along. But it is going to be very hard to me to underappreciate Steve Kerr and the job that he's done.
This day and age in the NBA, it's so hard to meet expectations. The Warriors have, regardless of what you think of their expectations, they have met and exceeded them.
Yep.
And that's one of the hardest things to do. I mean, look at how many All-Stars the Celtics have. They have not been in the finals. They got boy wonder coach and a bunch of All-Stars. Not the finals since Brad Stevens took over. LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh won 2 championships. Not 4 out of 5, 2. And that, I mean, it's that hard to navigate the whole thing. Do you pay attention to the coaches when they do the cut-ins on the huddles during NBA games?
How they are, or the listen to them?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all lip service. It's all BS. No NBA player is listening to, got to get back on defense and crash the boards harder, guys. It's not what it is. It's a make or miss league, period. We listen to Steve Kerr. He's never given the, go get you some guys, let's get going. He never does that. He straight talks to them like adults in a stern tone and says, this is what you guys aren't doing. Figure it out. Mm-hmm. I'm going to let you guys figure it out. And I think it's the modern day style that everybody wants. But also, Steve Kerr, he's not the crazy guy, except for with the officials. He only gets after the officials. He never gets after his team. There's always the cliche press conference, and it drives both of us crazy. Every press conference, you always get the, what'd you say at halftime, coach? And every coach is just I'm not telling you, you dumb reporter. But regardless, Steve Kerr doesn't say anything at halftime. The Sportsman of the Year article when the Warriors were the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year, there was a scene where it talked about Steve Kerr, and they said he just sat in the corner silently drinking his water bottle. And when the halftime buzzer rolled out, he said, you guys know what to do. And that's it. No one says anything to anybody. There's no rah-rah speech. They're not drawing up anything different, running exactly what they do. And then when they do make a change like they did last night, you can see once they crack the code, the way that they avalanche people is just, it's astounding to watch.
It is. All right. We may come back to this game a little bit later in the show. Maybe come back to the Warriors specifically because there's a lot to say about it, no doubt. But Roger Goodell said a couple of things, specifically about the preseason and maybe about the city of Buffalo. How far is too far to read into this stuff? We'll discuss it next.
Father's Day is fast approaching, and we know we have plenty of dads out there worth celebrating. And what's better than celebrating Father's Day with your pops by hitting the links?
No doubt. All I want to do is go golfing for Father's Day, and that's what we're going to do for one of you, right, Coulter?
We have a stay-and-play package that includes accommodations in a Lewis and Clark room at the historic, gorgeous Sacagawea Hotel in Three Forks and 2 18-hole rounds of golf at the Headwaters Golf Course.
Listen to Tootell and Nuanez all week long and call in with your best story about Dad to register.
Happy Father's Day from Tootell and Nuanez.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask. risk.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up, pump it up.
Craving some caffeine? Need a snack? Then stop by your local Town Pump now. We've got buy one, get one free on our 11-ounce high brew coffee and Doritos XXL, 2 for only $6. Stock up today. Town Pump Food Stores, proud to be part of our community.
Town Pump, right down the road, pump it up, oh yeah.
Hey folks, Ryan Tootell here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate.
Hey, Tootell, Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer, Tommy, is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tootell and Nuanez on YouTube.
Tootell and Nuanez, live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. Darby's Dylan Parks caught touchdowns of 55 and 85 yards to lead the blue team to a 32-7 rout of the red team at the Bob Cleverly 8-man All-Star game in Butte Saturday. Lander Smith, a standout from Charlotte, who will play at Montana Tech next season, scored rushing touchdowns of 1 and 60 yards as well with Bob doing field.
Maverick McKinley of Geraldine Highwood recovered an onside kick with 46 seconds left to help the red team cap a furious rally and secure a 33-32 win in the blue team in the 6-man All-Star game in Custer on Saturday. Brady Duvall's touchdown pass to Jake Sullivan gave the red team a 33-24 lead midway through the fourth quarter. Duvall of Geraldine Highwood threw for 119 yards and 3 touchdowns to earn Offensive MVP.
Game 2 of the NBA Finals went to the Golden State Warriors, who even the series at a game apiece with a 109-104 victory over Toronto. Steph Curry finished with 23 points while playing through some sickness. Klay Thompson also had 25 before leaving the game due to injury. His status for Game 3 is unknown. That third game will be Wednesday evening from Oakland.
And finally, Northern Arizona head men's basketball coach Jack Murphy is headed to Arizona. He will join Sean Miller's staff as the associate head coach. For more on that and other news from around the Big Sky, stick it right here, Tootell and Nuanez.
And also tonight, Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final. Blues, Boston. Bruins up 2-1. They're up 2-1 in the series, not up 2-1 in the game. It hasn't begun yet, so we're clear. It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. On Twitter, at Gus Tootell, at 102.9 ESPN, and at Skyline Sports MT. Meant to mention this off the top, but we'll mention this now. But today is day 1, people. Taking a caller, doing the second hour of the show, I think, for our Father's Day giveaway. An overnight at the Sacagawea Hotel and a couple of rounds of golf at the Headwaters Golf Course over there in, near Three Forks, around Three Forks area. And
once upon a time was the only golf course that stayed open year-round in Montana.
Oh, really?
How brutal was the winter this year? They had to shut down for a couple weeks.
I mean, even if it's open to you,
it used to be pretty nice. Like sometimes it wouldn't even be frozen over at all. They used to have a winter rate where you can go out there and play as many holes as you can and or want to for $10.
Oh yeah. Well, you're going to go play for free. All right. All you got to do is call up and give us your best story about Dad. You know, your best dad story. It could be about your dad, different dad, maybe you as a dad, however you want to do it. But we're going to register one person a day all week long. And the story we like the most, which we will review at week's end, you are going on the stay-and-play package overnight and a couple rounds of golf over there at the Sacagawea Hotel. Something special. It's one of the iconic places to stay in the entire state. So very, very cool. So we'll get to that. I want to stick around for that. We'll tell you when to call in the next hour. Coulter, Roger Goodell was in Buffalo at Jim Kelly's charity golf tournament, and pretty explicit in his discussion regarding preseason football games and that force too many games to be having. He says, quote, "I feel what we should be doing is always to the highest quality, and I'm not sure the preseason games meet that level right now. I'm not sure talking with coaches that 4 preseason games is necessary anymore to get ready for a season, to evaluate players, develop players. There are other ways of doing that, and we've had a lot of discussions about that," end quote. Now, the obviousness of the truth of this statement is clear to everybody, and it might seem silly for him to say that. However, the fact that he is putting that out, and he's alluded to this to some degree before, but stating that for the public record, particularly when we are, I think, 2 years away from a new CBA needing to be put together and a collective bargaining between the players and the league, this is one of the points that is going to be in play in that thing, and we expect this to be a very, very contentious negotiation that's going to happen here. And this is Roger Goodell already trying to start to move towards the center at some degree, because Roger Goodell, about the only way that he could land in more hot water with the fan base of the NFL is if there isn't any NFL under his watch. And I don't know that matters. He is not a servant to public opinion, as we've already discussed at length. Nonetheless, nobody wants to be the guy who's overseeing a work stoppage for any reason, and especially because of collective bargaining, because billionaires and millionaires can't figure it out together, as the public will undoubtedly scream. So he is trying to push that, and here's the issue, though. It's also money for the owners. You're talking about 2 home games, which is, I mean, that's 25% of a regular season worth of games.
And when
at
you're
home.
talking about a 20 total game schedule, it's 20% because you're talking about 2 out of 10, right?
Well, you said a 20 total, so it'd be 10%.
No, there's 20 total games counting the preseason.
Yes,
10 of them were played at home.
Right.
Like you were saying, 2 is 2 out of 8, but this in reality, this really is.
It is 20.
2 out of the 10 games that you will play in your home stadium.
Yes. And the tickets are. Let's put it like this: the face value season ticket prices are the same for all 10 of those games, including the 2 preseason games. You pay for those games. They may be a little bit less, but essentially they're the same price. And obviously, you pull in a minimum 40,000 people, and in a lot of stadiums, they're full anyways for the preseason, or close to full. And all the concession sales and all that stuff goes along with it. So that is the reason why there are still 4 preseason football games. That's the reason. That's it. That's all. Because for a long time, the football has been bad as a result of the desire to protect players. Most of your marquee guys aren't playing in the preseason, or maybe sparingly in that 3rd preseason game. And that's it. The dress rehearsal that you need happens in practice, happens in OTAs, happens all that kind of stuff. And it's not about going out there and playing the game, so to speak, both for evaluation purposes, as you mentioned, or for preparedness. And I'm interested to know how you think this is going to go when the time comes in 2 years from now. I mean, I guess in theory it could change before that, but it seems to me like this is preparing for that. They're going to reduce these numbers, and that's going to go right to the wallets of the owners.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they actually are going to be able to reduce it. I think that there's going to be some sort of compromise that happens here, and it's going to be a give and take between either cutting the preseason down or figuring out a way to give more guaranteed money to players.
The guaranteed money is going to be the central sticking point of this entire thing, and it's not going to be good because they're looking at the NBA and Major League Baseball and the relatively physical risk that is not being taken in those sports compared to the NFL, and they're going to go, no. You are getting a check for $280 million, and your entire salary is $140 million? And now we haven't even sold a ticket or a drink or anything or a jersey yet, and you're already doubling up what you're paying us. No, that's not how it's going to go. And this, the non-guaranteed, even the guaranteed money that's not guaranteed, we're not doing that either. And this could go long and hot in 2021.
I don't think they'll be able to cut 2 preseason games right off the jump. I think it's got to be 1.
Why?
Because, just like you said, owners are not going to agree to sacrifice that much money.
Well, here's the thing. If the guy who's hired by the owners, who has for sure spoken to the owners about this very point at length already, is saying this.
How do you make up the money, though?
Well, you don't.
Because right now, these franchises are operating at such a high profit margin, and there's no way they're going to accept doing anything less than that.
Here's the thing. If this is made up, okay, by playing one Sunday of football that wouldn't have been played in a strike.
That's probably true.
So the goal here for the owners to make their money is to have football games being played.
It would be fascinating this day and age, this media climate, to have a strike and have scabs like there was back in the 80s. Because there's way more guys that are willing to play now than there ever has been before. You could for sure, day one, have a new NFL. It's the AAF. Just roll them in.
Yep. Nothing will change. It'll be just like it is.
I mean, I'm not saying that football would be very good, but I'm just saying that you could have games. You wouldn't have to miss any games if there was a work stoppage. You can get it filled.
You want to pay? I'll go play it. I'll play a football game.
Oh my God.
I'll take an ACL for.
You would die in so fast.
But I would do it. I'd go out there. Any dope like me would do it. You're gonna write me a check for how much money, and I got to go out here and try and not injure myself. Okay, I got injured. Well, so be it.
Yeah, there's a few more highly qualified people out there.
A few, but you start working through them.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do because the NFL's at a crossroads right now with this because the players definitely are beating the drum super hard to get taken care of better, but also they're not humans in the eyes of the owners. They are just commodities, and they are 100% replaceable.
Okay.
I just don't know who budges.
Well,
because if you tell an owner, hey, you're going to cut 2 preseason games because your product is going to get better, but you're going to lose this much money, as a business owner, you just wouldn't do that. You can't just cut away your number 1 revenue stream.
Well, first of all, it's not your number 1 revenue stream. It's about your number 8 revenue stream. And the other thing is that they are viewed as commodities up until the point where
a premier player gets hurt.
Yeah, and until the point that you have a negotiation with them.
When was the last time a premier player got hurt in the preseason, though? Because now everybody treats it so carefully that it rarely happens.
Jordy Nelson ended his Packers career.
For sure. I mean, that's a good example. That's probably the last one, though. That was a really marquee one.
But, I mean, I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about, you talk about the business owners and them running a business. I think first of all, I think most owners are more keyed into their players as people than that has been historically the case. But I think they're doing it in not for the ends as their own good, but because they want to make money. So they know that they need to foster these relationships so these players feel like they are, being, taken care of and so on and so forth. And I mean, there is a relationship there because you're paying a lot of money, but they're also making you a lot of money, and they are the product that you have to put out there. I mean, the fact is, if you are a football player, you are the product.
Right.
And that is a fact. That's not missing the humanity of these people at all. That is the reality. When your job is your body and what you can do with it, that's what you are. You are a product and therefore a commodity. That said, if you won't play because you don't think the conditions such as they are right, are worth it for you to do that, that goes straight to the checkbook two of the owners, and that moves the needle. The question is, it also goes to the checkbook of the players, and are they willing to hold out for long enough to get what they want out of this? I don't know the answer to that. That's why you have to have a strong players union.
I also want to know if this comment by Goodell about the coaches is completely accurate, because it seems to me that there's a very systematic way of evaluation that's entrenched within once you have to report to training camp through the end of the preseason. If you ever watch Hard Knocks, almost every team in the NFL does it the same, with the way that you sort of stratify your roster initially, and then you play your veterans early, and then by the time the third and fourth games come around, you're straight up like you need the in-game action, because you're saying, okay, here's the three guys we got for our number 3 tight end. And you're playing them each 25 snaps a game, and you're seeing which one of you guys can make the team right now.
Right. But you only need one game. You only need one game for that, right? Because here's the thing. When you get to camp, you got a 53-man roster. How many guys the day camp opens do you think there are actual open spots for?
I would say 15.
Yeah. Maybe 20 at the high end, maybe 10 at the low end.
Yeah.
15 sounds good to me too. Okay? So you got 65 guys trying to get 15 spots, basically.
Yep.
Okay? That's all you need. I mean, you know the deal. Everything else is just practice. Everything else is just reps. That's it. So
the one thing we always talk about, because we've seen this in the college football in Montana, just the ebbs and flows of the amount of contact that you have during practice. And, it reached a high point during Bobby Hauck's last time here. And subsequently, in my opinion, there was not nearly as many injuries, which with a lot of people would consider that ironic, but I think it's actually a very tangible effect that Coach Hauck had high-level, hard-hitting practices often. And so, therefore, when the hard-hitting came around,
your body's ready
for it. And you saw the low point of this with the last 2 years of the Rob Ash era, where they went full contact 5 times that weren't game days. And so then when you go full contact, second spring game, and you got 2 guys battling out for the number 1 defensive end spot, and they're going unconscionably hard, and then all of a sudden, boom, torn ACL, or boom, concussion, and now your roster's wrecked. But I just wonder, I think that we gloss over that because these guys have played at such a high level. They're all developed at such high levels in college football. But I guess one thing that the common fan doesn't understand is that the NFL has contact hour limits during year-round. Like during the season, NFL teams do not go full pads and hit. They maybe once a week did they do that. And it is very scaled back comparatively. If you watch an Alabama practice the third week of October compared to a Seattle Seahawks practice,
right,
is totally different.
Yes.
It's a walkthrough with the NFL teams because of the collective bargaining agreement. And I don't know. I think on one hand, it does keep the guys fresh. It also keeps the professionals accountable to be ready to go when called upon. But I also wonder if there is some matriculating factors that come from injuries from the lack of contact, but also is this impacting the game? I don't know. If you had an NFL team practice like Alabama does, what would the quality of the play look like? I'm not sure. Maybe they all would just die. I don't know. Or also maybe they would be so superbly conditioned. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It does seem to me, though, Coulter, that there is a lot more injuries early in the season when guys haven't been used to the physicality of the live game at the NFL level than as you go through. Usually you get to week 6, week 8, and it seems like to me.
Right. How many guys tear their ACLs in week 17? Right. Hardly ever, man.
Right.
It's almost always before the trading deadline.
Yep. It's Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Hey, we're hitting all the professional sports here, people. We got NBA, NFL, and now a little bit of NHL. The Blues have to find a way to bounce back after an embarrassing Game 3 loss at home. Shake up the lineups. Is that enough to do it? I'll tell you next.
On September 14th, Montana plays at one of the hallowed venues in college football at Autzen Stadium when the Grizz take on the Oregon Ducks. And Tootell Nuanez, we're sending a collection of Grizz fans to the iconic venue. All summer long, Widmer Brothers Brewing will be providing you with the opportunity to win a pair of tickets to the Grizz Ducks Showdown in September. All you need to do is register at designated locations around Missoula, then attend a live broadcast of Tootell Nuanez to win tickets. Register for tickets at the Iron Horse, the Desperado, and the Press Box, then stay tuned to Tootell Nuanez for remote broadcast dates.
At the Montana Club, our goal is to create a menu of mouth-watering food with variety to satisfy any craving. From the garden fresh ingredients in our salads to our succulent, perfectly grilled Montana Club Angus steaks, we take pride in every detail that goes into preparing your food. Top off your meal with a premium cocktail, wine, or microbrew. Come as you are and satisfy your craving with our home-style breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get $50 off alignment when you purchase a set of 4 Open Range AT or Reputation tires. Book an appointment today at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time only. See details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
The splash of launching a new boat, the quiet of a favorite campsite, the noisy fun of a family barbecue on your new deck. Whatever summer sounds like to you, make it happen with a personal loan from Farmers State Bank. 9 locations to serve you, or start the loan application process online at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
On September 14th, the University of Montana plays at Autzen Stadium against the Oregon Ducks, and Tootell Nuanez are sending a whole group of Grizz fans over to Oregon to see the game in person. All summer long, Widmer Brothers Brewing will be providing you with the opportunity to win a pair of tickets to the Grizz Ducks Showdown. All you need to do is register at designated locations around Missoula, then attend a live broadcast of Tootell Nuanez to win tickets. Register for tickets at the Montana Club, Katie O'Keefe's, and Stockman's Bar, then stay tuned in to Tootell Nuanez for remote broadcast dates.
If it matters to Missoula, it matters to us. Ryan Tootell and Colter Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Just over an hour from puck drop of Game 4, the Stanley Cup Final. St. Louis, Boston, the Blues, blown out in 3. Got to bounce back. And this one is Tootell Nuanez. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. Want to remind you, we are starting to register you for a stay and play at the Sacagawea Hotel in Three Forks and a couple of rounds of golf at the Headwater Golf Club. There, we're going to take your best dad stories in the next hour. Coulter can tell you a couple about me, I'm sure. I don't know if they'd be winners. I know that they would call into question my competence.
Now that you got a bunch of kids and you're a dad, I always wonder, are you going to be like as legendary in your kids' minds as our dads are to us?
No, I could tell you that, but I will be as legendary in my mind, which is the one that matters to me.
It's so much harder to be unique these days.
Isn't it? It's all just a falling in line. Thanks, Internet. Speaking of, Tootell Nuanez, YouTube. Check it out. Did I say Kurtz Polaris yet? We're in the Kurtz Polaris studios. Like always, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy.
You better figure it out because you're way off on your clock here.
Imagine that.
I'm having a little anxiety attack here about this.
I still haven't actually gotten expressed to me what happens when you're off on the clock.
It is a crime with no punishment. The Boston Bruins crushed St. Louis 7-2 in Game 3. We're up, I think, 5-0 at one point. It's at least 4-0. It got to be 5-2, then a couple of empty netters late to get it out to 7. For the first time in his young career, rookie goaltender Jordan Binnington was pulled after the 5th goal. And an odd, you would think a shaky situation where he's been so good as a goalie, which is why the Blues are here. But for your first ever, disaster, and to get pulled from your first ever NHL game in a Stanley Cup final appearance and the first home game in 49 years in St. Louis in a final, that has to add significantly to the sting of it, and how a guy like this bounces back, in his first year is going to be. It will be the story of Game 4 tonight. Also, the Blues have changed lines a little bit. Zach Sanford is moving up from the 4th line to play with Ryan O'Reilly and David Perron in the 2nd line, a significant promotion for him. And also, I think what is Dunn, Vince Dunn returning as the 3rd line defenseman, where they have been very, very weak without him. He was hit in the wrist, I think, in the Eastern Conference Final. The Western Conference Final, and has been out since that series with the Sharks. So he makes his first Stanley Cup final appearance tonight in Game 4, which will be a boost. All that said, you lose 7-2, you got to have a little professional pride about it, and obviously urgency. They had it in Game 2 after losing Game 1, which was very impressive. Boston came back and sort of carried the big stick, as it were, in Game 3 and said, no. You think that you've got this, but you have not got this. The winner of this game tonight, it goes a long ways to say who wins the series. Obviously, if Boston wins, they're up 3-1. Feels pretty done deal. I think if St. Louis wins this game, they have a better than 50% chance of winning the series after going ahead and bouncing back in 2 games and sticking with it like that. So, big game tonight. NBC, not NBCSN, regular NBC television, 6 o'clock. There you go. Stanley Cup, baby. Great contributions, Colton.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Alpine Touch has mastered keeping your taste buds happy by spicing up anything you throw on the grill this summer. Now, let Alpine Touch keep your mouth watering whenever you want their new sunflower shooters. Their new jumbo sunflower seeds seasoned with Alpine Touch's world-famous all-purpose seasonings. And Alpine Touch sunflower shooters will be available all summer at every Osprey baseball home game. Available at retail locations around the state and online at alpinetouch.com. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up, pump it up.
If you're looking for the perfect snack and drink combo, then you need to stop into your local Town Pump, where you can get a 12-pack of Corona for $14.99 and a delicious fresh wrap in our deli for only $3.49. Town Pump Food Stores, proud to be part of our community.
Town Pump, right down the road, pump it up, oh yeah.
When you need a bank to help ramp up your savings strategy, look to your local bank, Opportunity Bank of Montana. Build confidence in your financial future when you create a rainy day cushion or take care of the nest egg you already have. Opportunity Bank offers options from basic savings to money market accounts and certificates with competitive rates. There's nothing like the feeling of progress, so let's get started today. Come see us at Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com. Member FDIC.
Hey everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. MontanaKits.com.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening, Ryan Tootell, Colter Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. Darby's Dylan Parks caught touchdowns of 55 and 85 yards to lead the blue team. The 32-7 rout of the red team at the Bob Cleverly 8-man All-Star game in Butte Saturday. Lander Smith, a standout from Charlotte who will play at Montana Tech next season, scored rushing touchdowns of 1 and 60 yards at Bob Green Field.
The University of Montana has a new cornerback transfer. Just announced it on Twitter. Rayshawn Rowland transferring from UT Martin by way of a junior college in California. The newest addition, we'll find out more for you. But cornerback for the Grizz.
Very good. Maverick McKinley, Geraldine Highwood recovered an onside kick with 46 seconds left to help the red team cap a furious rally and get a 33-32 win over the blue team in the 6-man All-Star game in Custer Saturday. Brady Duvall's touchdown pass to Jake Solomon gave the red team a 33-24 lead midway through the fourth quarter. Duvall of Geraldine Highwood threw for 119 yards and 3 touchdowns to earn offensive MVP in the game.
Northern Arizona head coach Jack Murphy. He is headed to Arizona. He will join Sean Miller's staff as the associate head coach. Third coaching change in the Big Sky Conference so far this offseason. We'll get into that and much more. News from around the Big Sky next.
It's all on the line. In one shining moment, they're frozen in time.
I know you don't like this song so much, Ryan, but I wanted to play it anyway because it's a punishless crime. Punishment-free issue.
Instant, my eardrum started pulsating and bleeding. I knew why I was enduring this awful track, is because you are the one person who tries to keep us on the clock, and I am incapable of doing it, mostly because I see no punishment.
Well, it's nice working with you. See ya.
This song
First of all, why do
brutal.
you hate this song?
I hate this song. I hate
You're
everything
so
about this
corny.
song.
I thought you'd love it.
What are you even talking about?
You would love dad jokes. You have your own as well as a calendar full of them. You're way behind. You're like on February.
Sphere is Sphere itself.
Give me more.
What would you do if a bull charged you?
What?
Pay whatever it charged. Did you hear about the guy who was fired from the keyboard factory?
Nope.
He wasn't putting in enough shifts. There you go.
That's the best one.
There we go. Catch him up.
Oh, man.
I'm not going to do this right now, okay, with this song.
Okay.
But I suffice to say, there's very little in sports that I hate more than that song and the whole charade.
Coulter, a couple of years ago, it got so heated, Ryan actually brought somebody to tears over this.
Who?
It got personal, man. It was heated.
No.
Okay. Well, I will say that I think that the greatest moment of branding and marketing in the history of the University of Montana occurred when the Grizz made the NCAA tournament in 2013, and the Grizz dance team opened and closed One Shining Moment. And it was one of the most talented dance teams the University of Montana has ever had. And I guarantee you, Google was off the hook for the next 30 minutes.
And just imagine if that wasn't the song that was playing, how much better it would have been. 20,000 enrollment to this day. I mean, that song is it's an absolute ship sinker. It's a blown up hole in the boat.
You've got 23 minutes in this segment on your clock, so get her going.
It is Tootell Nuanez. We are broadcasting from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula. Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the first hour, check it out on the podcast. The podcast is available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify. It is there, still on iTunes, by the way. And it is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. You can listen to the stream online, 1029ESPN.com. The stream is available thanks to Opportunity Bank. Your local bank, your opportunity. And if you'd like to call, 329-1899 is the phone number. 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. Coming up here in about 20 minutes from now, we are going to take your call for the first registrant for the Father's Day giveaway. It is a stay and play package over to Three Forks, the Sacagawea, the iconic Sacagawea Hotel, and 2 rounds of golf at the Headwaters Golf Club. If you're watching us on SWX Montana Television, maybe you're out that way. Maybe if you're listening on the radio here in Western Montana, you go on a beautiful drive. However you want to do it, we'll take your call. We want your best dad story, okay? You give us your best dad story here on the show, and then you will be registered for the giveaway. So there you go. Coulter, we wanted to just bounce around because there's a bunch of news that has sort of been percolating through the Big Sky Conference here recently. And I'll start with what I think is probably I don't know how significant it is, but it's the most notable piece of news, I guess, in the last 24 hours, and that is that Jack Murphy is leaving Northern Arizona, going to be on the staff at Arizona with Sean Miller. Northern Arizona has not been good recently. What does this say to you?
Well, I think that you mentioned that maybe sort of questioning where does this rank in terms of newsworthiness. I think this is very newsworthy for a couple of different reasons. If you know anything about Jack Murphy's background, Jack Murphy, first of all, ran one of the top AAU clubs in Arizona.
I mean, Richard Jefferson tweeted about
You have the
this.
tweet
Yes.
up. What is it? What does it say?
Richard Jefferson said, "Hey, at A Players Program, I'm so excited that Jack Murphy is joining the staff. At NAU, Coach Murphy was so instrumental in the development of so many AZ players like Iggy, Luke, Channing, and myself. He's a huge ad for the program. Great job, Sean Miller." So some of the guys he touched, talking about, Luke Walton, Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson. That's pretty good, right?
The last real great era of University of Arizona basketball.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Arizona basketball has been pretty good under Sean Miller, but not the absolute elite powerhouse that it was under Lute Olson. Jack Murphy went to Arizona. He started his coaching career as a student manager under Lute Olson, had a variety of positions at Arizona, 1998 to 2006. He sort of got his hype as a coach. The reason Jack Murphy is so interesting is because Jack Murphy had so much hype because of all the guys that he was around. He worked for Lute Olson. Then he worked for Josh Pastner, who's at Memphis, and who kind of set the table for what Penny Hardaway now has going on at Memphis. And in between that, he worked for George Karl and the Denver Nuggets. So he's been around so many premier players. Jack Murphy's been a good recruiter while he's at Northern Arizona. He's been a terrible player retention guy. The other reason this is impactful news here is because Jack Murphy certainly has a reputation amongst Grizz fans for several different reasons. First of all, last time the Big Sky Conference tournament was here in Missoula. Travis DeCuire's first year at the helm. I think it was Jack Murphy's third year at the helm. That Northern Arizona team was very, very good. They had 6 seniors, half of whom he recruited, half of whom he inherited.
They were 13-5 in the.
They're 13-5 in the league. Great team. Quentin Upshur and Asim Dixon and Akko Kaluna, Chris Yanku. It was a great team. And they went on to win the CIT that year, right?
Runner-up.
Okay, so they
CIT championship.
Yeah,
game.
went to the CIT championship game, and at that moment, everybody. What were they? A 23, 24 win team that year.
23-15.
Yeah, a lot of people were thinking, man, Jack Murphy, a hot up and coming coach. And then after that,
5-25 the next year, 3rd and 15, tied for 11th, and they've been bad since then.
And it's been so much about the roster turnover. I mean, he's had, Torrey Johnson left, transferred to Wake Forest. Chris Yanku. I mean, the story has a lot of different variables to it, and there's a lot of different hearsays that go along to it. But the basics of the story is Chris Yanku got kicked off the team somewhere between Northern Arizona's last regular season game and their first game in Reno. No one really knows where Chris Yanku went, how that all went down, but somewhere in the travels from Flagstaff, Arizona to Reno, Nevada, Chris Yanku got kicked off the team. So he was a first team All Big Sky point guard. And that's just a part of it. I mean, they've had so many different turnovers. And this last year, I thought that they actually had a pretty good young team, even though they finished 8th in the league. I thought that Carlos Hines is a good young player. I mean, they looked good in Missoula. They took the Grizz all the way down the wire. The Grizz had to hold on for dear life to beat that team. But Jack Murphy also had a reputation in Missoula because that first year.
Yeah,
there was the
instigating a near fight between the two head
Jordan
coaches.
Gregory hits the almost buzzer beater. A Grizz player dives onto the court, dives back off the court. Right. Oh, yeah, right. Is a coach on the court, dives back off the court. No technical is called. At the end of the game, Jack Murphy, fiery competitor, gets in Travis DeCuire's face, gives him a chest pump. You got lucky. Okay, now DeCuire's ready to roll. Let's go. And then everybody gets broken up.
Travis wasn't cool with that. What I know of Coach DeCuire, you're like, no.
Yeah, and then a melee basically ensues.
Put your hands on me.
Yeah. Melee ensues, and I don't know. I think but that moment, then Coach Murphy became a villain in the Missoula sector.
No question. I mean, from that moment, he certainly. It wasn't like two coaches going at it, right? It was like. It appeared to be one coach, Travis DeCuire, going down to shake hands after a very intense game, and another coach instigating, right?
Yep.
And the moment's heated because the game was heated. It's obviously a tournament game. One season is over. One season continues. And it's a packed out. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it. But, yeah, you got 7,000 people sitting there watching something that doesn't happen. I mean, it's rare that two players get involved in that sort of way. It's almost never that two coaches do, head coaches, for crying out loud. And so, yeah, he became a villain for sure at the University of Montana and in Missoula from that point forward.
It's human nature for resentment to be attached to guys that come with a lot of unproven hype, guys that attain lofty positions at young ages. Jack Murphy encompasses both those things. But I think you would agree.
Cliff Kingsbury is going to get in a fight this year?
I mean, but you would agree, though, that in terms of where we sit, Jack Murphy was great. Jack Murphy was...
I've spoken with Jack Murphy on the phone, spoken with him in person about basketball, but not in the throes of a game or something like that. Funny, engaging,
eager to do
nicer,
it,
all that stuff. Yep.
I mean, after they lost in Missoula, he answered my questions about the game, and then I was like, hey, I hate to do this right now, but I'm working on this series of features for the league leading up to the league tournament. And he's like, oh, I'd love to give you some feedback. He's like, who do you want to talk about? And I was like, oh, we're working on a feature on Tyler Hall as the all-time leading scorer. Gave me 3-minute impression of what it was like to coach against Tyler Hall. I said, okay, well, we're working on one on Jordan Davis. 3 minutes of great stuff about Jordan Davis. And, a lot of people would say that's just because he's kind of he's a salesman. He's always trying to position himself. But he was always great to us. So I got to say, congrats to Coach Murphy. But as far as this, what this means, first of all, Mike Malone is the athletic director at Northern Arizona. He's entering his second year as the AD. Mike Malone has a lot of Missoula ties. He spent some time here in Missoula. But Mike Malone...
a lot of work being the head coach of the Nuggets and the AD.
It's Mike Marlowe, excuse me. Mike Malone, head coach of the Nuggets. Mike Marlowe, good catch. Regardless, Jerome Sowers retires, so they got a new football coach with Chris Ball.
Right.
Now they have an opening for a new basketball coach. I think that NAU is the sleeping giant of the Big Sky. NAU and UC Davis, but UC Davis has got it rolling with Dan Hawkins.
Yep.
But I always thought that the fact, Jerome Sowers is the all-time winningest coach in the history of the Big Sky Conference. He's also the all-time losingest coach. That's what happens when you're at a place for 22 years.
Yep.
But shared 2 league titles, made the playoffs 4 times in 22 years. I thought that was an underachievement, all things considered.
Yeah.
I think you can get players there. I think Flagstaff's a cool town. So you just wonder what the hire is going to be. But the other thing is that Jack Murphy, he signed a long extension under the previous AD after that run to the CIT. This was going to be the last year of his contract. So the fact that he made this move right now in the offseason and he lands at Arizona, I think it keeps his career momentum alive because he never had to get fired.
You know what I hate about this? You know what I hate about the state of affairs that we're occupying right now?
What's that?
What's transpired in the last 12 months at Arizona from a basketball standpoint is not great. And Sean Miller, who is probably the premier name in terms of a head coach in the Pac-12, which we've talked a lot about that. and the paying for players scandal, which again we sort of assume to be pretty pervasive across the landscape of college athletics, specifically basketball. And, you have all these guys decommit, Shaq's son decommits, and, all this stuff going on. When a guy who has been there at Arizona and all this stuff transpires and a coach is embattled the way that Sean Miller is and is, busy trying to hold on to his job as well as, put all these fires out. The circling of the wagons here in terms of bringing a Jack Murphy back into the fold, what I hate about this is that my presumption is one of guilt already. It's like, who can you get in here that is going to be, going to be good for the program and is going to be a good person on the staff? Somebody who's been here before, somebody that you have a relationship with, and all that. And again, associate head coach is a significant title, right? I mean, you're like the...
Oh, yeah. Jack Murphy probably has doubled his salary.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I just sit here and I hate being a cynic and a skeptic about this stuff, but I don't know. I feel like I don't have a choice here. And by the way, nothing. This is based on absolutely nothing whatsoever, other than my own feelings and perception about what has happened at Arizona, the steps that's taken, and then the wider landscape of college basketball. That's how it makes me feel. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. And that is disappointing. That bothers me. That's the first thing that I think about.
I mean,
especially when it's not grounded in anything.
There's
no substance to that whatsoever.
There is a ton of substance to it, though, because the optics of the entire situation. Because
yes,
the last 24 months, all the things that that insiders kind of believe to be true have then come to fruition through federal investigations. Everybody knows that the shoe companies run AAU, and that AAU is where everybody gets recruited from, and that there's guys brokering talent from AAU to big-time college football programs, and that guys become a Nike guy or an Adidas guy when they're 16 years old. And that's sort of always been accepted. But when you put a tangible dollar amount on it and you tap the phones and you hear the phone calls, the reason you're so cynical about it is completely accurate. Will Wade is on record bribing someone on the phone using vulgar language. Where's LSU's president at the very least saying we don't accept that sort of branding for our school, let alone if he's actually cheating or not, right? No president has got up and made a statement about any of this stuff.
No.
Which tells me that they have just completely said loud and clear, like,
turning a blind
if we win and we make money, we do not care.
I totally agree with you. And I guess here's the issue. The issue I accept all of that stuff and take it this broadly. But my point is that Jack Murphy, a guy that, I know a little bit just professionally, right? And have no problem with whatsoever. And I understand his reputation because of what happened that one night in Missoula, and that's fine and maybe deserved, okay? But I have nothing to sit here and say bad about the guy and like the guy. I like the guy as a guy, okay? That my first instinct is to go, man, what's he going to have to go cover up? What's he getting into this role for? That's the first thing I think of, and that bothers me because that reflects poorly on him, and he's done nothing. Not that I know of. You know what I mean? I'm forced to that because of all that stuff. And again, it's real out there broadly speaking, but then to point at one person who you know nothing about and make assumptions, that's the part that I don't like.
Totally. Disconnect Jack Murphy from the whole thing and just put the situation.
It would not matter who was getting hired.
That's
for
what I'm
this
saying.
job.
Take Jack Murphy's name and personality and everything we know about him, every conversation we've had about him, out of it. And I tell you that there's a coach under the age of 40 who used to be the head coach of the top club program in a metropolitan, population-rich state that produced a ton of NBA players. Then that guy went to work for Josh Pastner at Memphis, and then he became the youngest head coach in the league. And now, after 7 years and a 78 and 149 record, he's out. It doesn't matter if it's Jack Murphy or anybody else. You're going to say, just what you said, what's he running from?
Right. Right.
And that's the state of college basketball. That's why I think that the John Beilein segment we did the other week is so important, because I really do think that, sure, John Beilein wants to try his hand at the highest level of basketball before his career is over. But also, John Beilein knew that he was going to face a rebuild at Michigan, and that you don't have 4 seniors in the Power 5 ever now. So the thought of trying to replace them seems unfeasible. And I just think that it's gotten to this point where there's such a fracturing in college basketball that it just seems like it would be so unrewarding to me to live in the world where there is no way to win unless you find a way to bend the rules, let alone break them.
You know, the irony of this is that probably what needs to change are the rules.
But how do you change that?
You pay players.
But here's the thing. If every single Power 5 player got a $100,000 salary, it still wouldn't change the seediness of the back end of this.
I understand because it's a shoe contract.
It's the shoes.
Yes.
Because when you get Zion Williamson on your Nike-sponsored AAU team when he's 16, and now his mixtape, you're always talking about fame in terms of YouTube hits. I mean, who gets the most YouTube hits of any non-musicians in the world right now?
Tootell and Nuanez.
The dudes who can do 360 dunks when they're 16 years old. Like there was that white point guard recruit that last year who is just throwing down windmills in games and stuff like that. I mean, this guy's getting 80 million YouTube views a week.
Right.
Like Zion Williamson was a sensation before anybody even knew if he was right or left-handed because he could dunk so hard. And that's because what sells shoes? Hype sells shoes. Not rings, not how well you move without the ball, not your skill. How do you dunk? How do you play at the playground? What is your swag?
I understand that, and I guess,
and so that's always going to be the seediest part of the game.
And that's fine. And there's always going to be seediness around anytime there's big money and big exposure and all that. It's there, fomenting under the surface. But I guess my point is that not so much paying the players like, oh well, now that you don't have a financial burden in your life the way you did before, now you can make a choice on your own terms rather than the money. That's not what I'm saying. That's silly.
The funniest part about this has been the most striking part about this whole thing to me, is that all this stuff that came out with the federal taps and the list that came out with all the players that were identified as players that were bribed, and there's a tangible money amount attached to every single one of them. The craziest part to me is that none of this is an enormous amount of money. It's not life-changing amounts of money. It might help this kid in the moment. But like, if University of Utah really did only have to pay $8,500 for Kyle Kuzma, are you kidding me? That's such a good deal. Like, allegedly, Sean Miller only had to pay DeAndre Ayton $10,000. That's it.
Look, no.
Sean Miller makes like $5 million. He's got $10,000 in his wallet.
That's beside the point. But it's more about, how can you start to make things that have been seedy a little less seedy? Exposure, right? And exposing them through a federal investigation is one thing, but also just making it. What have I said about this? Why is the public reaction to this? Why is the president's reaction not there? Well, one is because of how pervasive it is, yes, but also because
it's just expected.
And also because the kid who's the victim is getting $10,000.
Right.
Like, I talked about a crime with no punishment. This is a victimless crime to a lot of people, I think. They look at this and they go, okay, does it feel bad? Does it feel seedy and ugly and weird to think about kids at 16 years of age having handlers who are pushing them in particular collegiate streams for shoe deals in the future? Yes, that all feels weird and bad and ugly, but also a kid who didn't have any money now has money, and a lot of people think the kid should be getting money anyways for this, and they're like, well, that's the path that he got it. What do I care if he goes to Duke or Kentucky? What do I care if he goes to Arizona or Oregon? I don't know that he cares where he goes to play. So Ben Simmons showed up at LSU, didn't take a class, and is a first overall draft pick. Have a nice day. That's why I think people don't care about it.
The victim is the institution of higher education, because that's being made a mockery of. Well, and the fact of the matter is, I mean, Duke's a great example. Do I think Coach K's paying guys? I don't. But I do think that there's 12 guys that go to Duke that have a lot different admission standards and transcript levels than the other 4,500 kids that go to Duke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can only go to Duke if you are one of the brightest, best students in the world. And I'm not saying all these guys aren't. There's a lot of great student athletes at Duke in all the sports, and even in basketball. But I'm just saying, it's like the old joke, like at the Jesuit schools. They turn the transcript upside down. Oh, yeah, he can get in. Yeah. And when they're private institutions, they can do that. But I just think it's higher education that's being made a mockery of. What you're saying, I agree with, except for that then you have to just remove this fallacy of using college basketball as a minor league system. What should happen is, if you are good enough to make money by playing basketball and you are being brokered by shoe companies, you should just go play for a pro team. If you're not good enough to go to the NBA, go play in the G League. Go play overseas. I can't believe that doesn't happen more, honestly. But that
is happening.
It's happening a little bit. But here's the thing. This is why they're making a mockery. This is why the NCAA, in terms of college basketball, is a joke, because they have everything. They have them completely by the throat. Because why would you go to Duke instead of go make $250,000 in Greece for a year and then come back to the NBA? Because 100 million people are going to watch you on TV. No one's watching you on TV when you're playing in the Euro League.
Exactly, because you want to play in March Madness. And Coach
go to play what you play one game March Madness. I mean, what sort of must-see TV was Duke this year?
Yeah,
I mean, I hate Duke, and I was like glued. Wanted to see them every game. Yep. Got to see Zion.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I just think that it's gotten out of control, though.
Hey, Tommy, we're 2 minutes over. We've gotten through one of the 5 line items for this segment. What should we do?
You don't have a producer because I left.
Give us a call, 329-1899, boys and girls. Let's do a little bit of Father's Day stuff. Give us your best Father's Day score. We're just start to register people. Okay, again, it's a stay and play overnight at the Sacagawea Hotel in Three Forks. 2 rounds of golf at the Headwaters. Play the day you get there, spend the night, play the next day at the Headwaters Golf Club. 329-1899. Give us your best dad story. Best dad story. You will be registered. Listen, this is not a 1 in a million deal. We're taking 5 of you. Okay, the best story on Friday. We're going to give that person the stay and play package. So give us a call right now, 329-1899. Give us your best dad story. We'll do that. Some other stuff next.
Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift this summer or any time of year. If you are traveling, bring a gift that is distinctly Montana and give your loved ones some of the best spices anywhere around. From the Alpine Touch Pick 4 Spice Pack to the All-Purpose Twin Pack to the mouth-watering sunflower shoots to Alpine Touch gift cards. Alpine Touch makes the perfect Montana present. Available at retail locations around the state or online for a limited time. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Hey everybody, Ryan Tootell, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
You're a big league fan, still emerging from your winter hibernation. At the Desperado, you get exactly that. Straight, cruise on down to Borda, Missoula for all your spring and summer needs. Come check out their men's and women's streetwear, sunglasses, and shoes from brands like Vans, Adidas, Thrasher, Volcom, and the original Borda Missoula brand. They also have all your skating needs covered, from tune-ups to fresh-made custom boards. Borda Missoula, Missoula's original board shop since 1989, on the Hip Strip, 618 South Higgins.
You're a big league fan. You expect big league service. At the Desperado, you get exactly that. With 35 flat screens, ice-cold brews on tap, and Missoula's #1 wings, you're free to sit back and enjoy every pitch. This summer, make the Desperado your baseball home away from home. Cool off after work, relax on the weekends, soak in some great food and drinks, and watch your team make yet another great push for October. And hey, if yours can't do it, there's plenty of other teams and fun to go around at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, but we also know that you're going to pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it. Well, not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with a staff of specialists that can answer any question. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and, are you ready, lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Brian Tootell, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. Darby's Dylan Parks got touchdowns of 55 and 85 yards to lead the blue team to a 32-7 rout of the red team at the Bob Cleverly 8-man All-Star game in Butte Saturday. Landry Smith, a standout from Charlotte, who will play at Montana Tech next season, scored rushing touchdowns of 60 yards on Bob Green Field, which is the field he'll play on next year.
Maverick McKinley of Geraldine Highwood recovered an onside kick with 46 seconds left to help the red team cap a furious rally and secure a 33-32 win over the blue team in the 6-man All-Star game in Custer on Saturday. Brady Duvall's touchdown pass to Jake Solomon gave the red team a 33-24 lead midway through the fourth quarter. Duvall, who's also of Geraldine Highwood, threw for 119 yards and 3 touchdowns to earn Offensive MVP.
Game 2 of the NBA Finals went to the Golden State Warriors, who evened the series at a game apiece with a 109-104 victory in Toronto last night. Steph Curry finished with 23 points while playing through some sickness. Klay Thompson, he also had 25 before leaving the game due to injury. His status for Game 3 is unknown. Game 3 is Wednesday evening from Oakland.
And finally, Northern Arizona head men's basketball coach Jack Murphy headed to Arizona. He is joining Sean Miller's staff as the associate head coach. Third Big Sky school with an opening this off season, including Idaho State and Montana State.
Oh, yeah. Watermelon, watermelon.
Nice summer jam about one of the fruits of the season. Speaking of fruits, it's Colton Nuanez and Tootell over here on your radios. Hope you're doing well. Let's have some fun. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Find us on Twitter at Gus Tootell, that's me, at 1029 ESPN and at Skyline Sports MT are the Twitter handles. All right, we go now to the Range Brothers RV phone line, and it's time to register a individual for the stay and play at the Sacagawea Inn and the Headwaters Golf Club in Three Forks. Gio is on the line. Gio, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Welcome back stateside.
Yeah, appreciate that. Good to be good to be back in the well, I guess I was in the Northern Hemisphere still, just barely, but the far north, as it were, relatively speaking. So, Gio, here's the deal, man. We're looking for your best dad story, and you are going to be one of 5 people registered. We'll do it once each day throughout the week for the overnight stay and play for 2 at the Sacagawea Inn in Three Forks, as well as the Headwaters Golf Course. So let's hear it, man. What do you got? Give me your best dad story.
So honestly, I kind of got 2, but like,
okay.
I don't know. Being a new dad, I will honestly say like my best dad story for myself is probably because I got to have my first Father's Day after, and it was only a month. So like my daughter was born May 16th last year, and it was like I think my wife was in labor for like almost. I think just shy of about 48 hours of active labor.
Oh, boy.
So super long, super tired.
Terrible.
And so, we finally get into the groove of things. And so I went out to do my marathon training group, and my wife had found me and I've always wanted this. Like, once I became a dad, I was like, any cool notions of cool Gio are leaving? And I was like, just set them out the door. And I told her, I was like, she found me a cup that said best dad in the world in Spanish.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty cool. And then she was like, what do you want for your Father's Day? And I was like, 3 things. I want PIG barbecue, I want to watch Star Wars, and I want to take a nap with my daughter. And I did 2 of those things at the same time. I watched Star Wars, fell asleep while holding my daughter, and I woke up at the end for the cool fight scene. And I was like, yeah, this is perfect. And it was and I think I even woke up with a sweat, a slightly wetted brow from some meat sweats, because I was like, I'm going to go big. I'm going to get the 3 meat combo.
That is an excellent first Father's Day, I must say. There's nothing quite like a first Father's Day and a first anniversary. Those are two where you're like, wow, okay, this is cool.
This is happening.
Yes.
And I think the only other one, like, and it's just like a funny, like, you're just like, oh man, like, I can't believe my dad did that. My dad took me to like pick out my glasses, and we were on IHS, so you don't have like a big swath of like cool designers, but you still have some choices.
Yeah.
My dad somehow convinced me, a 12-year-old boy, to get those same like big teardrop dad glasses on my face. And I got made fun of ruthlessly. Like, I've tried to destroy any picture I found of those, but it was just like, I was like, why did he let me do that?
Why is he
terrible?
Is he trying to toughen me up here? What's
Did he
going
hate
on?
me?
Yeah. What kind of relationship do we have, really, Dad?
Yeah, for sure. But
Gio,
so those are it.
Excellent work, man. You got in here. You gave some good stories. I like it. I love the first Father's Day story. That's great. That's great. You did an excellent job. You give your information to Tommy, and on Friday, my friend, we will be making a selection. Way to break the ice. You've opened it up well.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
You too. Gio.
You too, Colter. Bye.
Thanks, Gio.
New dad. I think I was in Kalamazoo for the first one, and Alethea was born in August, so he had like 10 months. And it just didn't occur to me that Father's Day was really coming, as I recall. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, you know, I've gotten my dad a tie or whatever for the last 20 years running, or better yet, like a chainsaw sharpening tool or something like that. You got to pay attention to me because
I am paying attention. I mean, it is hilarious. Your dad is like the ultimate logger.
He's a Sawyer, man. Anyway, I come home, and I was in school. I don't know, it was a long day. It wasn't a great day, if I recall correctly, elsewhere, outside of the house. And there's, like, Tina, in all of her, artistic whatever, dipped the child's feet in, like, white paint and did footprints on the card. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That was like, oh, man. Oh, I'm about to lose it right here. I didn't even know what to do because I just wasn't ready for it. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, it's Father's Day. What a deal. So there you go.
The notion that when you become a father, you become less cool, that's one of my least favorite notions out there.
Well,
I think you got to embrace the cool, because who is going to think you're more cool than your kids?
Right. Well, right.
I think my dad's the coolest guy that ever lived.
You got more people on your side from the coolness. It's just whether it's true or not.
Yeah, you can be the dorky dad, though, because people succumb to that. We had a great conversation on your wife's birthday. What is age? What makes you old? And I think if you refuse to continue to evolve, then you become old at a young age. If you continue to learn and continue to evolve, you can be young, because I read this great article about human psychology and how humans can encompass as many as 12 distinct personalities throughout their lifetime if they continue to evolve. But some people have as few as 3. They have a childhood, an adolescent, and an adult, and that's it. And they stop when they're like 23 years old, and they're the same until all of a sudden they're old, and then they're just old. That's depressing to me. I think that's the worst thing you can do.
Right.
But I just think that if you live with wisdom and grace, you can always be a cool dad.
Well, and I will say,
you're the coolest dad I know, man.
Having a coffee mug that says "World's Greatest Dad" in Spanish is no ways taken away from the cool factor. Go get it, Gio. All right. Do you want to do? Let's do this quickly. We got some time. We got a little bit of time. Prep extra segment. It's brought to us by the Farmers State Bank. Farmers State Bank. It happens to everyone. You walk off. You leave your debit card in a restaurant, grocery store. Lose your wallet anywhere. My Card app. Link it to the Farmers State Bank debit card. You can shut it off, turn it on, anytime, anywhere. Okay. Coulter. Couple of quick hitters here. We mentioned it in the news, but the 6- and 8-man all-star football games took place over the weekend. Why do they do these Class C all-star games at this time of year?
Well, because then they want it to precede the games like the Mondac and the Shrine game, where a lot of those small school guys will go play, but it's their first time playing 11-man, so they want to give them one last chance to do the 8 or the 6-man thing. I think it's kind of fun, kind of cool.
It just seems so. I mean, you got obviously fall. You're on the entire other end of the calendar.
For whatever reason, too, though, a lot of the small schools graduate a lot earlier. Like graduation in Missoula is not till this next weekend, but I heard from so many different people at the Class AA B meet. So many of the B schools were like, "Oh, see you at the graduation party tomorrow."
Yeah.
Because you don't state track, and then you go graduate Sunday morning, and then
that's because the harvest has begun, my friend.
Right, totally.
They got to get out there.
Totally, but I think that there's just a lot of the schools that are at the Class C level that are just available. The kids are just out of school already, so they can do the All-Star games.
Okay,
but some local kids had good days in the 8-man game. Dylan Parks from Darby caught 55 and 85-yard touchdowns to lead the Blue to a 32-7 rout. Lander Smith, who's one of the great athletes from this area, a kid that a lot of people thought maybe could have played in the Big Sky, ended up signing with Montana Tech. He had a couple rushing touchdowns, including a 60-yarder. That game was played in Butte, so the fact that he was playing on Bob Green Field, kind of a preview for what his career might be. Lander Smith's a great athlete. And 6-man game sounded like it was thrilling. It was a back-and-forth, big-time rally by the Blue team. And they recovered an onside kick with 46 seconds to go. But those are always fun because you talk about, the 6-man game. I think there's only 30 total kids to make the roster, 15 each, because you only need 6.
Right.
And everybody's trying to play.
Totally.
But I don't know. I think it's a fun brand of football because it's talk about space.
Yeah.
Space is such a priority in college football now, but we're talking about 6-man. One hit it and get it. I mean, you get one move and you're gone.
That's it.
And if you're fast, it's over.
See you later.
The game is really fast.
That's why 6-man was never good for me or were any other sports. Softball State Player of the Year.
Yeah, Anna Toon was named the Gatorade Montana Softball Player of the Year last week. She was a junior shortstop as well as pitcher for Great Falls High, who won their 3rd straight Class AA championship. Pretty impressive stats for Anna Toon. She was 15-2 on the bump, 1.75 ERA, 114 strikeouts, just 12 walks in 100 innings. Pretty good strikeout to walk ratio. She threw 3 shutouts in the state tournament alone, including 2 on Saturday, which was huge because Great Falls High got dropped in the losers bracket on a walk-off home run on Friday. Had to battle their way all the way back through and win 3 games in one day to claim the title. But she threw back-to-back shutouts to get that. And then also as a shortstop, she hit 500 with 8 bombs and 38 RBIs. She also scored 44 runs, slugging percentage of .963. So just raking. Really impressive. She's the second Great Falls Bison to win it. Aaron Hawker won it 2 years ago, and she's currently at a junior college in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Other piece of softball news worth noting, Rob Rawls steps down as the softball coach at Florence Carleton High School. He's been the head coach there since 2014. He inherited the 2-time defending state champion, and they won several more since then. Yeah. And Florence has been absolutely the dominant team in BC. I think that the stat was they won something like 12 out of the 19 state championships in the history.
They've won 11 since 1999.
When the division was created.
Yep, exactly.
So basically they've won
better
half
than
of
50%.
Yeah, pretty
amazing.
Pretty amazing. So congratulations to Coach Rawls on a great career, and I'm sure that program, like you said, it's a machine.
Yeah,
they'll just keep on rolling.
So our prep extra segments brought to us by the Farmers State Bank.
One more piece of softball that we'll touch on, and I hope to actually get this young lady on the ESPN Roundtable, or at least on this show. But former Frenchtown softball player Morgan Ray, she just wrapped up her absolutely outstanding career at Ohio State. She was the Buckeyes' #1 pitcher for 4 years from a Class A school in Montana. So very impressive for her. Got to be one of the best local products. When you go to Ohio State, they made it to the Super Regional this year. Her career basically ends with a trip to the Elite Eight.
Yeah,
and she was a key factor in that. So she had an awesome high school career. She was flat out unhittable.
Sure,
we couldn't even touch her when she was at Frenchtown High. But then to in the Big Ten, very impressive as well.
Quick break. We'll wrap this show up. I'm going to do something that's going to make Coulter very, very happy.
Father's Day is fast approaching, and we know we have plenty of dads out there worth celebrating. And what's better than celebrating Father's Day with your pops by hitting the links?
No doubt, all I want to do is go golfing for Father's Day, and that's what we're going to do for one of you, right, Coulter?
We have a stay-and-play package that includes accommodations in a Lewis and Clark room at the historic, gorgeous Sacagawea Hotel in Three Forks and 2 18-hole rounds of golf at the Headwaters Golf Course.
Listen to Tootell and Nuanez all week long and call in with your best story about Dad to register.
Happy Father's Day from Tootell and Nuanez.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Summer's here and the time is right for real fruit smoothies at Florence Coffee Company. Offered in flavors like strawberry, mango, peach, wild berry, and banana, and made with no artificial colors or flavors. Florence Coffee's fruit smoothies are the perfect summer treat. Enjoy a real fruit smoothie today at any Floco locations or visit FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky. Florence Coffee Company.
Hey there, Coulter Nuanez from Tootell Nuanez 1029 ESPN Missoula here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom got me a great deal on an automatic car starter this winter. Now it's summer. What sort of stuff you guys got going on down there, Tom?
Well, Coulter, coming into the summertime, we're picking up on the window tinting front. So if you need your windows tinted, give us a call. We'll get you scheduled up. Boats and ATVs are starting to come in full swing, and we're also starting to see the hot rods come out to play. Anything audio related, let us know. We'll get you taken care of.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Hey, Tootell Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer Tommy is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tootell Nuanez on YouTube.
Tootell and Nuanez, live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube.
Tootell and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Oh,
it never happens to Tommy. He says it never happens to me, and then there it goes.
It happened. I can't believe it.
That's right, dude. If only we had. If only there was an engineer somewhere who knew how to fix these things.
Oh, man.
Look at Coulter's
he's
face.
So mad.
Hey, Coulter.
Because now I'm going to sit in that hot studio for the next 55 minutes trying to upload the podcast while it goes. Yep, just like that.
This is unbelievable. What have you done? Like, why? Like, what kind of nefarious sick joke is this? Like what did you do so that this would happen to me?
Sounds like we have an engineering issue.
Okay, I'm done.
What do you get when dinosaurs crash their cars? Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oh, my.
It's Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com.
If you'd have told me 7 years ago when I was a proud newspaper man running the two-time Montana Newspaper Association Sports Section of the Year, that I'd be doing this with you guys.
Nice flex, Coulter.
God.
It's a great career arc you're on.
And, I mean, if you could ever devolve so rapidly at such a young age.
Yeah, you might be out of a job here in about 7 days. This pace. Headed right towards it.
Headed right to those afternoons on the trail.
Now you stop with that.
We'll tag
if you missed anything, it'll be on the podcast in about 55 minutes. The podcast is available on the TuneIn Radio app.
Or we might not have a show because I might break the whole thing with a sledgehammer.
That could happen. The podcast is available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. I said I was going to make Coulter happy.
Let's go.
5 minutes.
Can't wait.
We're talking boxing.
Oh, yeah.
Anthony
I love this.
Joshua,
I cannot wait to take you to task for your weekend tweet.
Anthony Joshua falling to Andy Ruiz in the 7th round. Andy Ruiz, who no one cares about, that is not related to Andy Ruiz. And look, good for him. He went in, he unified a bunch of belts, huge fight, biggest fight of his career, and an underdog, a huge underdog to Anthony Joshua, and he loses. But basically everybody's mad at Andy Ruiz today because the perception is that he ruined a Deontay Wilder-Anthony Joshua super fight at the heavyweight level, which we haven't had in who knows how long, and that is now out the window. I didn't see the fight. I don't know anything other than Ruiz beat down the supposed best or one of the two best boxers in the heavyweight division and one of the two best in a long, long time. Evidently, he is not. Congratulations to Ruiz. Go ahead, Coulter. Boxing. Talk to me.
I got a lot to say about this one. First of all, Anthony Joshua ruined the fight.
Very fair point. Very fair point.
2 ways. First of all, by fighting Andy Ruiz before fighting Deontay Wilder, he could have fought Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder just fought. If Anthony Joshua wanted to sign him up and train for 6 months, they could have had the fight instead of having this fight. Don't dodge him. You can get the fight you want. Second of all, Anthony Joshua ruined it by losing. Anthony Joshua is fundamentally and physically one of the great boxers we've seen come along in the last 15 years. But that doesn't account for stone hands. And the one thing I know about fighting is that if you're light on your feet, you can stand your ground, and you're not scared, it doesn't matter if you have 5% body fat.
Yeah.
Anthony Ruiz is getting ripped apart on Twitter because he looks like he's fat. Everybody's saying
he doesn't look like he's fat. He is.
He's
fat.
portly. But you go watch Ruiz's training videos. His footwork is unbelievable. And guess what? When you got 265 and you can plant your feet, you're going to knock somebody's block off. The reason this fight got stopped, he punched Anthony Joshua so hard his mouthpiece flew into the crowd, and Anthony Joshua didn't even know. And then he takes one in the ear hole, equilibrium gets all messed up, and he can't get back up. And I get all the aesthetics of it, and we want our heavyweight champions to look like Adonises, and more often than not, they have. But again, you cannot account for mass, stone hands, and fearlessness. And that's what I saw. I think this is a tremendous story. This guy had never made more than $30,000 in a fight. He was not expecting to make any more than the guarantee he had of $300,000 to lose this fight. And guess what?
How much?
He didn't lose. $7 million.
Oh, boy.
Now, to be fair, I'm fascinated to see because, again, when you weigh 265, you can just charge guys. Like, he doesn't have to back down because if he just protects himself, if he gets inside and gets you with that hook, I mean, he hit Anthony Joshua so hard 3 times. I don't care who you are, man. When that hook is like that and you got 265 behind it, that hurts. That said, I'm so interested to see how he goes against Deontay Wilder because Deontay Wilder.
You think he's going to go against
Anthony Joshua is so fundamentally sound. But when you look at a guy that's a brawler like Ruiz and a guy that's a flawless, flossy boxer like Anthony Joshua, in broad scope, that's the worst matchup for a flossy guy like Anthony Joshua. Is a guy that can just stand his ground. He doesn't care if you dance around him. All he's trying to do is get inside you and get a strong hook right on your ear. Deontay Wilder has really no style. Deontay Wilder just straight swings for the fences.
Oh, it's home run hitters out of Deontay Wilder.
Right. And so, I would just love to see these two guys fight because Deontay Wilder can knock anybody's block off, and Ruiz is not getting away from him. But also, Ruiz can take it.
Yeah. Ruiz, an 11-1 underdog. It is the longest odds for an upset since 2001 in the Lennox Lewis fight. Before that, of course, Buster Douglas. Boys and girls, have a wonderful rest of your evening. Welcome to the week. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Enjoy Blues Bruins. Register another for the stay and play package, Sacagawea Resort, Sacagawea Hotel. Till then, good evening.